What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, theFellowKGB. You can follow me on Twitter at theFellowKGB. And today is Saturday. It's August 15th. It's about 2:30 in the afternoon. I got some rain coming in my area, so I just figured I'd hop on and record a mock draft real quick. We're going to be drafting from the fourth spot today. We're going to be using Yahoo. So this is my first time using Yahoo mock draft lobby, so that's kind of exciting. Actually, I did one this morning just to kind of prep for this. And I think it's kind of one of my favorite mock draft lobbies. So if you haven't used Yahoo, it's pretty nice. They got a lot of cool features that I'll show off throughout the video. But before we get started, looks like we're drafting from the fourth spot today. This is the full PPR mock draft. It's going to have 2 starting receivers, 2 starting running backs, 1 flex, 1 tight end. We'll make kicker and defense our last picks, but then we'll grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bench spots as well. So that'll be a good amount of players to get through here. And then I just want to say, if you've never used Yahoo Fantasy, you go to their Yahoo Fantasy page, and then they get this little thing that says Mock Draft Lobby. And they got a handful of different size lobbies. So you just look for your number of teams, and then you hit join, and then you're good to go. And then, so we're starting here in a little bit. I just took Alvin Kamara in my last mock draft video. And I just want to say, if you haven't watched my videos, I've been getting some good numbers here. The one that seems to get the most is my ESPN from the 8th pick. That's over 400 views, so I appreciate all those views. And then we got a couple over 200 and some approaching 200. But for the most part, these mock draft videos have been doing pretty well, so I thank you for that. And yeah, like I said, I started in the first mock draft I did was 12th overall. We're working our way all the way up to number 1, so this is spot 4. I got 3 more left to get out to you guys before mock draft weekend, but I'm going to be working on some other things too. I'll be updating my rankings earlier, like maybe starting tomorrow, Monday. I'll get my rankings updated on the website, and then I want to get a cheat sheet ready for you guys so you guys can print that off. And yeah, that'll be available on thefantasyfellowship.com. So it looks like our draft is starting. So I just took Alvin Kamara in my morning, or I guess my 5th mock draft spot video. So I don't want to double down on it, but I mean, to be honest, he's probably the best player at the number 4 spot that you'd be hoping for. And I've actually got him, if we filter here by PPR, I mean, I got him as my 3rd best player. So it looks like Alvin Kamara, though, he did go. I'm going to move this up here for this video so we can see my team, and then you can see the scroll here of players. So McCaffrey, Barkley, Kamara go. We'll hop on Ezekiel Elliott. I have no problem with that. Really, if you're sitting anywhere in the top 4 picks, you pretty much know you're getting a running back. But it's that 5th spot where it gets tricky. Do you want to take Michael Thomas? Do you want to go Henry, Cook? Any of those guys. So go ahead and watch that 5th video if you're there. But yeah, we start with Ezekiel Elliott. I guess I want to kind of start showing off some of the features of this Yahoo Fantasy app. So you're going to see they have all the projections and stuff here, and then they even compare them. We're looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now, but if I click Devontae Adams, it'll show me his projected numbers up top. And then it's going to show me his 2019 numbers, so that's kind of cool. You can filter the teams tab and kind of rotate to see other teams. They do have this nice draft results where you can go position grid, or you can just do the big draft board, and that'll just keep going down as we go. But one of the coolest things that I thought that Yahoo has compared to other mock draft sites is they have this standings tab where they're going to total up all of your projected points, and they can even see which which position has the most points. So the mock draft I did this morning, I finished number 1. But again, these are just projection points, but it feels good to know that you're taking a team that has got a lot of points potential. So we'll see we'll kind of check back in on this standings tab once we get to maybe 8, 9 rounds, maybe halfway through the draft, and we'll see how we're looking with the numbers. But yeah, so far it looked like we'll go back to the draft results, draft big board here. So we got Michael Thomas 5, Dalvin Cook 6. Derrick Henry 7, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is creeping up. I just did a podcast with a good friend, Andrew Mackins. I was talking up Josh Jacobs and his ability in the passing game. So if you haven't checked that out, that's a really good podcast where we get some back and forth going on some players to target at ADP. But then Devontae Adams, Joe Mixon, Tyreek Hill, Nick Chubb, Julio Jones, Kenyon Drake, Travis Kelce. I would really, really like to get a running back with my 2nd pick. But if I don't, we'll see what we can do. The mock draft I did this morning, I ended up getting Kamara and Travis Kelce at the 4 spot. So it doesn't look like we're going to get a tight end. We'll be playing the tight end weight game, which we've been accustomed to doing in these mock draft episodes. But then Deandre Hopkins, let's start to look at some of the players here as we're getting up to bat. Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, the top 2 running backs available. I do like Allen Robinson. I like Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay. Patrick Mahomes is still available here. If you really wanted to snag the best available quarterback, that might be an option. But I think I'm going to go ahead here and take Aaron Jones because I think people are kind of Aaron Jones is a polarizing player because a lot of, he's basically expected. If we look at the numbers here, I mean, he put up 290 fantasy points last year, 1,084 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, 474 passing reception yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So the man put up 19 touchdowns. I think he scored the most touchdowns in the league last year. And those are pretty much guaranteed to come down. You bring in a second-round pick like A.J. Dillon, which if you haven't seen, like A.J. Dillon was on the practice field this morning, and the man's just got legs. His legs are tree trunks. So I think Aaron Jones is going to lose a little bit of goal line work to him. 19 touchdowns, that number has to come down. So I kind of have it, coming down to maybe 10, 11, 12 touchdowns. So I still think there's value. He's still one of the, Adams is the best receiver, but Aaron Jones, Allen Lazard, those are going to be your next best options to throw the ball to. So I still like Aaron Jones. I still like the offense of Matt LaFleur for running backs. So Aaron Jones, what I've learned throughout my mock draft is he doesn't feel good as your RB1, but when you get him as your RB2, I think that's when he looks really good. And I've kind of been talking about that the last week or so where basically, the highlighted backs that I have here, those are like all consensus first-round picks. But then you have this big list of guys, Nick Chubb, Jacobs, Clyde Edwards, Sanders, Jones, Joe Mixon, Eckler, Kenyon Drake. If I can get any of those guys as my RB2, I think that's when you really start to get some good value on those players. So a guy like Aaron Jones, my RB2, he was the RB2 overall last year. So I don't think he's going to fall too far down. At worst, he's probably, an RB12, RB13, 14 range. So he's a strong RB2. You can't really go wrong there. Now we're up to pick here. It says best receivers are available. Robinson, Chris Godwin, Mahomes is still available. Adam Thielen, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore. I'm going to hop on DJ Moore in this one. I was talking about my podcast that I just put out on Thursday with Andrew Mackins, and he pounded the table for DJ Moore at any spot in the 3rd round. So that could even be the 25th overall pick. And I saw a really sick play from DJ Moore with Teddy Bridgewater in training camp. I don't know what day it was, but if we a really good way that I like to look up players is if you go to Twitter, you can kind of just Google or search their name and you're going to find stuff for them. So this is the play with DJ Moore, Teddy Bridgewater slinging it here, and DJ Moore goes up and comes down with the ball in the end zone. So I guess my bold statement for DJ Moore this year is he's only had 6 career touchdowns in 2 years. He had 2 the first year, 4 last year. I think he's easily going to get 6 touchdowns, 7, 8, 9 maybe this year. And that offense is going to be highly questioned because it's a brand new offense, new coach, new coordinator, new quarterback. Robbie Anderson's added to the mix. So there's a lot of moving pieces. But you think about what Teddy Bridgewater did well for those 4 or 5 games in New Orleans, and he was consistently hooking up with Michael Thomas at no question. It didn't really even from Thomas to Bridgewater, Thomas's numbers didn't even blink. So I think DJ Moore can kind of be that Michael Thomas quick slot receiver, the go-to guy. And I think DJ Moore is a smash for basically career highs in every statistic. So even if you look at what the projections are for 2019, they're giving DJ Moore more projected fantasy points. They're going to give him they have his yards about the same, but they did give him 3 more touchdowns. So I think he's going to beat that. I think he's going to get a career high in receptions as well. I think he missed a game and a half or so last year. So that's another thing too. I'm really into players that I know are very good and players that I know have the opportunity to get career highs where we haven't yet seen their ceilings. And DJ Moore checks all those boxes. There's probably a handful of other players that we could have went with at that spot. DJ Moore. We took DJ Moore over Chris Godwin, guys. That seems kind of crazy. I love getting Chris Godwin, but I've done so many mocks where I get Godwin, so I'm just trying to change things up a little bit. But I'll kind of recap here. Pat Mahomes, Todd Gurley, Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd, Adam Thielen, Leonard Fournette, Mark Ingram in the 3rd. Holy crap. Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham, Calvin Ridley. That's a good spot for Ridley. David Johnson, Juju, Mike Evans, Raheem Mostert. That's pretty early. So we're almost up to pick here. Drinking a nice Terrapin IPA today. We got Tropical Agave IPA. I don't know. It's a sampler pack that I got, but it's a really good kind of juicy IPA if you're into that kind of stuff. So we're just chilling here in the fourth round. Mark Andrews goes. It looks like we're on deck right now, so we'll start scouting. A.J. Brown's a nice receiver. Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp. Looks like Amari Cooper did go. And then you got Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett. Zach Ertz is chilling here in the man. Zach Ertz might be the move here. I would really like to get Terry McLaurin, but I've talked him up to death. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Zach Ertz here at 45th overall. So now we got DJ Moore, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, and Zach Ertz. So this is a really solid, balanced foundation for us. And then we're probably going to do a receiver here because there's a handful of receivers that I really like, and we're almost up at the turn. But the bull case for Zach Ertz is that offense, man, the receivers are highly questionable. You got Alshon Jeffrey, who might be on the PUP list to start the year. Deshaun Jackson seems to be in great shape, but it just always seems like something happens to him. And he's more of the deep ball receiver. And besides that, I mean, they got the rookie Jalen Riger, who I love. We'll probably look at him at some point in this mock draft. But the main consistency, the main constant thing in that offense is the tight ends. Carson Wentz has a really good connection with Ertz and Goddard, and I just easily see Zach Ertz as being the leading receiver there. He's the tight end, but we're basically getting a wide receiver at our tight end spot. So I think especially at pick 45, that felt like he shouldn't be. I've seen him dip into the fifth round sometimes too. So if Zach Ertz, if you're sitting here at the number one pick and Zach Ertz is available, I think that's a smash of a play. But we'll see in some of the other mock drafts I do. Where I end up with Ertz. But I think this is a sweet spot for Zach Ertz, the back of the fourth, early fifth. So we're up to pick here again. I'm not really into the running backs here. You can filter here by flex too. So we got Tyler Lockett probably being the best receiver. Robert Woods is a really good receiver option for us. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead here and take Tyler Lockett. And I just want to check out and see where I have him ranked among my wide receivers. So Tyler Lockett, he's my wide receiver 15. So we ended up getting DJ Moore, who's my wide receiver 6, and Tyler Lockett, my wide receiver 15. So we got our number 1, we got our number 2. This is probably one of my favorite drafts. It looks like we're very into the NFC. We got DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, and Zach Ertz. I don't really pay much attention to buys, but it's nice to see that none of our buys conflict at those positions. So Tyler Lockett last year. The thing about Lockett is last year I was talking about with on my podcast with Andrew Mackins the other day about how great of a season Tyler Lockett was having. And then I think it was the Minnesota game where he had to go to the hospital after a game with a leg injury. It was kind of like a freak injury. They had to check like the blood in the leg or something. So that pretty much derailed his season. But if you look at how he started the year, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The first 9 games of the year, he was probably a top 5 receiver. And then he showed great consistency. His worst game was 9.1 PPR points. And then he lays in some of these boom weeks where if you can hit one of these, 154 1 touchdown games with 11 receptions, that's going to be, the ultimate bomb that blows up your week for the W. So I love Tyler Lockett. And then if you look at what he did at the end of last year, we talked about the leg injury and he kind of had some inconsistencies as he's getting his strength back. But he finished the season really strong against San Francisco, 6 for 51 and a touchdown. And then with the wild card game against Philadelphia, 4 for 62, which is fine. That could be like basically a low floor game for him, is about 10 points. And then he destroyed Green Bay, 9 receptions, 136 yards and a touchdown. So it looks like Tyler Lockett's going to be one of those guys that can hit you 10 to 15 points as a floor. And then he's got those big blow up weeks where he's going to, put up 150 yards and a touchdown. So Lockett, one of my favorite receivers, he's got wide receiver 1 upside for a handful of weeks. But we'll see how he can stay consistent. I think that's the most interesting part of Lockett. So, but anyways, we're moving along here. We got a handful of picks in between where we go next, but I'll kind of recap what we're looking at here. So after I took Lockett in the 5th, you see Hunter Henry, Devontae Parker, who's been growing on me, Cortland Sutton, that's a good value, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Swift, Robert Woods, that's probably one of my favorite values right there, getting Robert Woods at 5'10", it's pretty great. Kareem Hunt, Dak Prescott, Cam Akers, Russell Wilson, Stephon Diggs. And if I showed you my projections, I probably have. I mean, if you look, I got Robert Woods as my wide receiver 11. But I've done so many mock drafts and videos talking up Robert Woods. I'm trying to do a little bit different things and get some exposure to different names. But Robert Woods he's on my draft list. So like I said, it's Saturday. I'm going to be. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. It's going to be nice out, so I'm probably not working much on fantasy. But I do plan to get my rankings updated on the website. And then once you go to the website, I'm going to have a link. I'll just show you real quick. But if you go to thefantasyfellowship.com, you hover over the 2020 content and click redraft rankings. I'm probably going to add like a tab here that says print cheat sheet. And I'll have something where you guys can take to your drafts with you. And it'll have all my rankings on here too. So you'll see, all the positions, and I might even throw like my top 12 defenses and kickers in there, just for fun. So we'll see if I can figure those out. But anyways, we're cruising along here in the 6th round. We see Stephon Diggs, Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Sony Michel, and we're on deck here. So now we're up to pick. So I'm looking around at the positions here. We got 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end. We got 20 seconds to figure this out. Michael Gallup's one of my favorite picks. Tyler Boyd, Ronald Jones might be the spot here. We're kind of light on running back, so I'm going to go ahead here and just snag Ronald Jones. So we got Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, and Ronald Jones. I think that should be enough to cover us for a while. We can maybe throw a dart or 2 at the end of the draft. But now I feel pretty comfortable. And none of their buys intersect, so we're going to be the thing, like when you take a running back in the 1st round, you pretty much know that you're not going to move that running back out of that spot except for bye week or, cross your fingers for an injury. But then another thing too is we double down on Aaron Jones in the 2nd round. So I'm probably never going to bench Aaron Jones unless something crazy happened or A.J. Dillon just comes in and just wrecks everything. But I pretty much know I'm leaving Elliott and Aaron Jones in the lineup. So Ronald Jones pretty much he's going to compete for my flex spot, and then he'll fill in for those bye weeks. So I'm feeling pretty good about the running backs. Maybe we'll get some PPR kind of scat backs later down the road. But so far, I think I feel pretty confident with the running back room. So after I took Ronald Jones, we see Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup. In so many of my videos, I've talked up Michael Gallup and Tyler Boyd. So those are definite targets. I could have taken either of those guys here and played the game and seen if Ronald Jones fell. But anyways, we're up to pick here. I would like to take a receiver. And as we sit here in the 7th round, I'm kind of just going to filter by receiver here. So I'm looking at a couple guys here. A.J. Green's a really interesting one. Deontay Johnson, I haven't had many shares of him, but I'm going to go ahead here and take A.J. Green. Because we missed out on Tyler Lockett, or we missed out on Tyler Boyd, I kind of wanted to hit a piece of that Bengals offense because they're going to the Bengals are going to throw the ball. They're not going to be a very good team this year. The thing that I don't like about the Bengals is they play in a tough division. The Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns are all tough defenses, but they're still going to have a ton of passing volume there. So the thing is with A.J. Green is I think he's got some of the most hidden upside of any receiver, in the fantasy drafts this year, because when he plays and when he's healthy, he's a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2. You see these fantasy averages. His worst career fantasy average is 14.4 fantasy points per game. If you look at what he was doing just in 2018 before he got hurt, the man was consistent. He was steady. And these are with Andy Dalton. So I think Joe Burrow could step right in and provide some of these numbers here where, sure, on a bad week, we'll get 5 for 58. But for the most part, he's still got this massive upside to get over 100-yard games. He's got massive upside to get 2-3 touchdown games. So maybe this is what his stat line looks like. His 2017 stat line when he went, he played the full 16 games. He had 75 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And again, this was his worst career fantasy season, 14.4 fantasy points per game. Maybe his season looks something like this, where, he's got, some super consistent weeks. He's got a couple boom games in here where he goes for big yardage and a touchdown. And then maybe he runs into Pittsburgh and only catches 3 for 41, or I don't know what happened against Jacksonville. I'm assuming that was the Jalen Ramsey game where he got ejected. But you see only a handful of games where he disappointed. So if A.J. Green can stay healthy, it's a gamble, it's a bet. But if A.J. Green can stay healthy, I'm starting to see the value in that kind of pick. And as you get into the 7th, 8th, 9th rounds of your draft, you really got nothing to lose because you've already set up your teams to succeed. with your first maybe 5 or 6 rounds. Those are probably the most important rounds. You just want to make sure you get good players. But once you kind of get to the 7th, 8th, 9th rounds, you're looking for guys with the most upside where, sure, if something happens and it doesn't work out, I can find someone else and replace them without, losing the core of my team. So AJ Green, he's got that ability to be a top 20 wide receiver. If everything goes as, according to plan and he stays healthy this year, there's a lot of new excitement and energy in Cincinnati that might have rejuvenated him. And then I'm just a fan of the Zack Taylor offense. I can show you guys some stats where they ran the most amount of 3 wide receiver sets. So they're constantly in attack mode on offense. So I love that. And I don't know, that's probably enough talk about the Bengals and AJ Green as we're up to pick here in a bit. But I really don't know what we need. We could take a quick gander at the quarterbacks: Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger. I think I'm going to be okay. We're going to probably punt on quarterback in this draft. Let's just take a look at running backs. We got 20 seconds. Nobody's really sticking out. I do love Tariq Cohen, but I think we can maybe get him at, the next pick. Tight ends real quick. We got Zach Ertz, so we don't really need him. Receivers, I love Brandon Cooks. We're going to go ahead here and take Brandon Cooks. And potentially, we're potentially getting the number 1 receiver in Houston. Will Fuller has not really been able to prove that he can stay healthy. They're trying to replace DeAndre Hopkins with, I think, a tandem of Cobb and Brandon Cooks. So I feel bad for Cooks because it seems like he gets traded every other year. I'm hoping he can kind of take this one and run with it and make them actually someone, a team needs to pay Brandon Cooks eventually. So I think if he can impress and hook up with Deshaun Watson and get consistent with him right away, I think good things can happen for Cooks. I mean, last year was really the only year where he struggled. Even his rookie year, he came out and balling, but his fantasy points per game average of his career, it was obviously last year. He kind of battled through injuries. He had some concussion issues last year, but hopefully there's been enough time and he's been removed from that. But I mean, it's really just one kind of blip in the radar. He's had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 5, 7, 8, 9, touchdowns in those seasons. So I think you can pretty much throw out this last year because now he's going to a team where he doesn't have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, hogging all his potential stats. So I like Brandon Cook's upside, and he's kind of like the AJ Green pick, where he's a guy that, man, if everything goes right, it could be a top 15 finish for him that we've kind of seen him be consistent and steady with in the past. So I like the upside there. And now our receivers are DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, AJ Green, and Brandon Cooks. That feels like a pretty good bunch of names there. Let's go ahead here and just quickly look at all the best available flex players. Did someone take? Yeah, someone grabbed Gronk. I'm into Marvin Jones here. I'm really into Tariq Cohen. So I think that's what we're going to have to do because if you look at the running backs, it's going to get a little crazy pretty soon. Antonio Gibson might be a guy here, but I'm just going to go ahead here and take Tariq Cohen. And I just want to show you guys. So Nick Foles last year in Jacksonville, he only played, I think it was only 2 complete games. So yeah, weeks 11 and week 12. And these were both games where they lost, but he put up a lot of passing attempts. So I don't think the Bears are ever going to turn him over for that many passing attempts. But if we look at what Leonard Fournette did in those 2 full games with Nick Foles, filtered by PPR. So that was weeks 11 and weeks 12. So that was Indianapolis and Tennessee. We're going to see 7 targets, 7 receptions, 12 targets, 9 receptions. So that's 19 targets, 16 receptions, almost 100 yards on the ground there. And that's why I present to you Tariq Cohen, because I don't expect the Bears to be a super good offense. They're going to probably be a middle to average offense. The defense is still fine. They're going to try to run the ball. We know they have Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller to throw the ball to. And then I guess the real question is with the offensive line, and can David Montgomery get anything going? But I'm just skeptical. I don't expect them to be a very good team. They're probably going to be hovering around 7, 8, 9 wins. And I just think Tariq Cohen, he's going to have a much better season than what he did last year. He only had 213 rushing yards last year, only 456 receiving yards, and only 3 touchdowns. And just, not too long ago, Tariq Cohen was scoring touchdowns, and he was putting up some good yards per carries and yards per catch. You see 4.5 yards per carry in 2018, 10.2 yards per catch in 2018 too. And then, so all these numbers come down. He had 8 touchdowns in 2018, only 3 last year. This kind of goes with what I was talking about earlier, is I want a player that I know is good. He has a well-defined role, and he kind of had a down year. So I'm expecting, an uptick in maybe yards per carry, yards per catch. He's probably scoring more than 3 touchdowns. So that kind of fits the mold of like the DJ Moore case, where I want a player who I know has more to give yet. So at this point in the draft, that looks pretty good for Tariq Cohen there. So now that we kind of have some things going on here, we're not doing so well here in the standings. That's because we don't have a quarterback yet. This guy's taken 2 quarterbacks. He took 2 really high quarterbacks, so we're probably not going to be able to compete with that. But as you see here, we're the last team to take a quarterback. So maybe now we pivot here, because we know we have 4 solid receivers: DJ Moore, Lockett, AJ Green, and Brandon Cooks. We know we have 4 solid running backs: Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Ronald Jones, and Tariq Cohen. And then we got Zach Ertz. So that's 9 really solid players. I think we can work with that. So let's go ahead here and filter by quarterback. We're looking at Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton's still chilling down here. So maybe we jump into this with 2 quarterbacks with back-to-back picks here. I'm going to do my due diligence, though. I'd like to, even if I know where I'm going to be taking my next pick, you kind of got to look around and just see what the value is around you. So if I just filter by fantasy points here, it's telling me Jared Jeudy, Jalen Riger, rookie receivers, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb. So, at this point in the draft, we're not going to be getting too much value from the flex positions. But, Cam Newton at this point in the draft seems like a slam dunk. He's a guy that I'm going to make sure I get in my lineups, especially against Miami and the Jets. And I don't really know too much about the schedule for Cam Newton, but, he's a player that's going to be pissed off and trying to show the world that Carolina did him wrong, that he can still play. And he did take the whole season off last year. So we're going to go ahead here and take Cam Newton. And I play in a lot of super flex leagues, so it's very common for me to draft 2 quarterbacks pretty high and just roll with the matchups and maybe get a 3rd guy. So I think in this one, it might be to our advantage to select a 3rd. No, we'll probably take 2 quarterbacks here. But you see, as soon as I took Cam Newton, we jumped up here to the 4th place team. We don't have a kicker. We don't have a defense. We're going to continue to wait there. But we'll see if we can catch up with the number 1 player here for the standings. But again, I wouldn't take the standings and the projected points too seriously, because there's players that can boost you and do certain things with projections. But that's not always, projections don't always end up to be the way things go. So for the most part, I wish I could input my own projections and do a fantasy lobby and see how that kind of works. That'd be kind of interesting. But let's just kind of look at my numbers here. We do have DJ Moore as my wide receiver 6. I got Tyler Lockett, my wide receiver 15. AJ Green's down here is my wide receiver 28. And then Brandon Cooks is my wide receiver 37. So we could use a couple more hammers here at the wide receiver position. I'm just looking at the quarterback room right now. I did talk up Joe Burrow, but I think I can wait for quarterback value here. I do like Ryan Tannehill. I like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones might be the guy too, because he's got a pretty soft schedule going against the NFC East. I know his first 3 games are pretty tough, but I'm just kind of curious here. I do like Ben Roethlisberger. I don't have any Steelers on my team. He might be a guy that could be worth the selection here. I'm just looking at the receivers now. I love Mecole Hardman, but it looks like we can wait on some of these guys. Jalen Riger, I talked about him. He's really interesting. He's really not going to be, having too much competition at the receiver room. He's probably going to be starting with Deshaun Jackson right away, but I really don't know. We already got Zach Ertz. I don't know if I need to invest too much more in the receiving room for Philadelphia. Boston Scott would be a nice player. Tevin Coleman's a solid backup here. But like I said, we got Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Ronald Jones, and Tariq Cohen. I really don't know if that's where we need to go. Tight ends, I usually would snag Dallas Goedert here without thinking about it, but we already got Zach Ertz locked into, so it's like we're drafting a handcuff there. So let's just look at the quarterback room again. Ryan Tannehill, he's got some really good rushing upside. We see last year. I'm just gonna go ahead here and take Ryan Tannehill. So we locked in Tannehill, and again, boom, that shoots us up to the number 1 draft team. So that's, if you care about that, that's looking good. So we got ourselves Cameron Newton and Ryan Tannehill. And the case for Ryan Tannehill, I think Ryan Tannehill needs to be on everyone's radar as their QB2, or you might be able to get him as your quarterback 1. But if you look at his fantasy points per game last year, career season, 18.5 points per game in a 4-point passing touchdown league. He rushed for 4 touchdowns, so that's probably not going to happen. Those touchdowns may come down to like 2, maybe 3, and then again 22 touchdowns here in 12 games. So if you look at the consistency here, basically when he started from week 7, this was your guy. It looks like his low game was 13.8, but he's able to put up 1, 2, 3. He had 3 300-yard games, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 games under 200, which is fine because he's still got the opportunity to throw 2 touchdowns. And then as you see here, as he became starter, there's only 1 game where he did not throw for two or more touchdowns. So I think with A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, that's going to be a highly concentrated offense. And with Derrick Henry, they have a good defense too. So this team's going to be very consistent. They're going to move the ball to the red zone quite often. And then, like I said, he's got the ability to go for 7 carries and 40 yards. You see this, I mean, that's 3.8, 3.7, and 4 fantasy points. That's a boost right there. And then you look at the playoffs. I know he did not have a great game against New England, but he only threw the ball 15 times. They played kind of small ball, and they took away New England's offense. But against Baltimore, against Kansas City, 2 of the best teams, in the whole league, and he still managed to put up 18.8 and 17.5. So I feel really good about Ryan Tannehill being my quarterback too, especially. So we're feeling good about that. Quarterbacks are set. Pretty much the table has been set here. Now we can kind of just start to fill in. It looks like we only have 2 more picks here to make as flex picks, a kicker and a defense. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, AJ Green, Brandon Cooks. We probably need 1 or 2 more little guys there. I think at running back, I think I'm okay. Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Ronald Jones, and Tariq Cohen. If we can get Ronald Jones to finish as a top 20 back, I think that's going to make or break this team because he could just be plugged in at flex. So that's feeling pretty good there. I did update my rankings throughout the week last week, and Ronald Jones just kind of keeps steadily bumping up my list. I put him over 1,000 yards. I have him at 10 rushing touchdowns, and basically his receiving work is going to be kind of the same as last year. But I just like everything that I've been seeing out of Ronald Jones, and it looks like he's developing a chemistry with Tom Brady. He was talking about some things that Tom Brady was telling him about to be a better receiver. And he said, basically you need to run your route like you already have the ball. And that kind of just helps him think about how to get open and avoid players and just find open space. So I thought that was really good. And I think Ronald Jones in the 5th or 6th round has the ability to finish as a top 15, top 20 back. So I love getting Jones at that value right now. But like I said, we're almost up to pick. We're doing okay here in the standings. This guy's just been snagging a bunch of defenses and kickers. But we're going to pivot here. We're going to just take a look at the wide receivers. Again, Jalen Riger still available. Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy. I might advise into taking one of these rookie wide receivers. I mean, there's still a handful of more well-known players that I like here, but we're up to draft. Running back room doesn't feel very good. I do like Boston Scott, Tony Pollard, Zach Moss. Those guys are all fine, but I think we need maybe one more receiver here. So I didn't really want to say I wanted to do that, but I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy because I think Jerry Jeudy might actually be a better receiver than Cortland Sutton. I know Cortland Sutton's a really good starting outside receiver, go up and kind of go get it. He makes those 50-50 plays consistently. But Jerry Jeudy, man, he's one of the blurbs I read this yesterday from Broncos training camp is that Jerry Jeudy is the best player at Broncos camp with social distancing because he's able to create 6 feet of separation from his defenders so easily. So I think you think about a player like Drew Lock, he's kind of got this gunslinger mentality, almost like a Brett Favre approach to things. But I think Jerry Jeudy is going to get open a lot, and Lock's going to find him. I know Cortland Sutton's the 50-50 ball, and Lock's not afraid to throw those. But I think Jerry Jeudy might have the potential to, hit 50, 60 receptions this year and just keep growing as he gets, developed into the season. So we don't have a backup tight end here yet. I really don't know if I want to. Dallas Goedert's still, chilling around up here. Jonnu Smith could be a really fun tight end for us. But I think, and again, running backs are still a value here, but I feel really good about those. So we did kind of invest in AJ Green and Brandon Cooks. Those guys are kind of boom bust potential prospects. And then we got a rookie receiver here too. So we're going to be relying heavily on DJ Moore and Tyler Lockett, and we'll see if Green or Cooks can fill in there. But for the most part, I'm feeling pretty good about this. This is kind of a luxury pick. This is a layup. We can pick whoever we want. Running backs, quarterbacks are probably still available. Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Gardner Minshew. Let's just take a look at the defenses. Tampa Bay. I did like the Colts defense, but it looks like someone already snagged the Colts. I will say, once we get to it, I'll pull up the Indianapolis Colts schedule. But I think if you're going to pick a defense, I would say target the Colts defense. They have one of the best opening schedules to start the year. We got auto picked here. I missed the pick. So we ended up taking the Los Angeles Rams, it looked like. My bad. I was too busy looking. So, okay, whatever. We ended up getting a defense there. Wouldn't have been my first choice. It looked like the Colts were off the board. I'm looking here on the board. Indianapolis went just before us. So that's unfortunate that we missed that. But I do want to pull up the Colts schedule and just kind of show you guys what I've been looking at. So week 1, Jacksonville. Week 2, Minnesota. Week 3, the Jets. Week 4, the Bears. Week 5, Cleveland. Week 6, Cincinnati. I mean, that might be a team that we can just leave in there the first 6 games and see what happens from there. So they've probably been my favorite value defense to look at. But it looks like we still have a kicker and one more flex play here. So we're kind of moving along here. I don't really know. We're still top 3 in the standings here. Looks like this team Jake, he's getting the first pick, so he gets the more points. But yeah, at this point, we can kind of just do whatever we want. Brandon Ayuk's got really good potential as a rookie receiver. It looks like Debo Samuel is getting healthier, though. But there's still potential where Debo is on the PUP list to start the year. So I just wanted to show you guys Debo Samuel here on Twitter. There was a really nice video here of him. He's running barefoot, which is great. There's no restrictions or anything, and that just helps the ankle and the foot. But it looks like he's able to kind of chop and step into things almost normally here. So it's good to see him, he's just kind of practicing like release on routes, it looks like, and just, I don't know, he looks like his feet are going to be okay. So Debo Samuel is one of those guys who I wasn't really high on in the draft process before, but now that we're getting a discount on him, he might be one of those guys that, especially if you have an IR spot, you can just take him, move him to the IR spot, and then you just add a player right away. So at this point in the draft, sure, I'll just take Sammy Watkins. We're getting a piece of the Chiefs offense. I'd like taking Mecole Hardman, in the 8th, 9th, 10th rounds. So it looks like any part of the Chiefs offense at receiver I really liked, whether that's Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Hardman, running backs, Clyde Edwards, DeAndre Washington. So that's pretty much finishing up the video here. We have a kicker to pick. I don't know if maybe they don't make us take a kicker, but I really don't care too much who my kicker is. My only criteria is I want them to be on a good team. So Tampa Bay kicker Matt Gay, Philadelphia Jake Elliott, Seattle Jason Myers. Atlanta's interesting because it's a dome team. Young Hui Koo last year, I don't know if he played a full season, but they're projecting some big numbers for him. So I like Atlanta's offense. For fantasy, Joey Sly in Carolina, that might be a sleeper one. Pittsburgh's kicker. And then you got Mason Crosby down here. He had a pretty good season last year, if I recall. But yeah, I really don't care who my kicker is. I'm probably just going to take the best available one and roll from there. I would like to get Tampa Bay's kicker. I think Tampa Bay's got a really good situation for offense this year. And Tom Brady just has a way of getting the team down the field and basically living on that side of the field. So we're probably going to miss out on the kicker there. But that would be my number one probably choice is the Tampa Bay's kicker. I think you get a little bit of value there. But looks like we're almost up to pick. No, he's still available. Maybe one more. If not, we'll just take Jake Elliott and we'll call it a day. But, if you're still playing with kickers in defense, just make these guys your last pick, and you should be fine. So, sweet. It looks like we were able to get to number 1. So it's telling me I'm going to have almost 600 points from my two quarterbacks. It doesn't account to like your starters, like it ranks like your whole team. But it looks like we had a pretty good draft here. So I'm happy with that. And we didn't even pick our defense. I wish I could repick the defense. It gave us Los Angeles Rams defense, which I probably wouldn't do. But anyways, that's cool. We finished number 1 here, it looks like. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to beat us. But we'll just kind of do a quick recap. My starting quarterback is Cam Newton. Starting receivers, it's weird how they do receivers over running backs, but my starting receivers are DJ Moore and Tyler Lockett, who I like to compliment them because we know DJ Moore is going to be a super steady guy in PPR leagues, and Tyler Lockett's kind of got that bigger window of, low floor and high ceiling. So those guys kind of, mesh together pretty well. You got Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones. Again, that's kind of the same thing where Jones is kind of that big boom bust guy, and Ezekiel Elliott's going to be super steady. So those guys kind of balance out. Zach Ertz, we got maybe the number 2, number 3 tight end this year. Ronald Jones he's right now our flex, but at this lineup here, Ronald Jones will compete with AJ Green, Brandon Cooks, and Tariq Cohen for our flex spot. So I'm really cool with having those decisions. Again, Ryan Tannehill's backup quarterback, and Jerry Jeudy and Sammy Watkins just chilling on the bench. So I'm feeling pretty good about this draft. I don't know about you guys. It looks like we did finish as the number 1 team here. I don't know if this guy can beat us with his pick. He probably will, but that's going to do it for today's video. Again, this was a Yahoo fantasy draft from the 4th spot. I'm probably going to be, maybe Monday night I'll record from the 3, but I got to start getting those out. I know people who are already drafting next weekend, so I'm updating my rankings on the fellowship, and I'll make a cheat sheet for you guys. So again, thank you for your time. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And check out some of the other mock draft videos if you're in one of those spots. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. Have a great one, and we'll see you later. Peace.